Oh, I took my other water downstairs. Got it. Okay, it's 5:30. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is me, Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers. I am here today to teach you how to use your brain based upon the principles of real leadership and neuroscience. I call it Neuropability. Launched it yesterday. We'll be talking about it more today. On your own, go ahead and inhale and exhale 3 times. I got to get this almond chewed up and be ready to go. So I got some feedback yesterday from my amazing offspring. I asked her, did she understand what I was saying on the live yesterday? She said no. It was all she heard was neural, 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 neural this, neural that. We went over it several times yesterday throughout the day. And what I realized is even though I thought I simplified it to the smallest common denominator, it could still be a little bit extra or above the level of understanding because you never had a class in Brain 101. Unless you were in neuroscience or you're a neurologist, that's not something that you talked about. So today, and it takes about 3 to 4 times for me to get this. So today, I am just going to say this. Neurogenesis is creating new neurons in your brain. Initially, scientists thought you were born with the amount of neurons that you have and you die, and that's it. New scientific research has shown that you have the ability to create new neurons. That's neurogenesis. And the next thing is, in order for you to do that, you have 2 factors: learning and the environment in which you're learning in. So in order for new neurons to show up, you need to learn something and you need to be in an environment where you can do that. The things that hinder neurogenesis are stress and fear. So if you are stressed out or if you have fear, and I added, if you are in the wrong environment, you are not going to create any new neurons. Not going to happen because it can't, because you need to be learning something and you need to be in an environment that nurtures that learning. So if you're stressed and you have fear, now you're in the amygdala, you're in the limbic system and the temporal lobe, and I can't learn anything. So it happens here in the frontal lobe. This is where your cognition and everything is. So if you want to create some new neurons, it's going to happen up here. And then finally, you have neuroplasticity. And basically what that is your ability to restructure, rewire your brain so that you can adapt to change, the learning environment. That's where we are. So I will keep reiterating that at the beginning of every live so that you understand neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. And then also neural pathways. So the neurons move, transmitting, and they create new neural pathways. That's enough for today. I've said neuro as much as I'm going to say. Now, what happens is your brain is not wired for personal accountability. It is not. It is wired for negativity bias. It is wired to be at your core, maybe accountable, but not personally accountable. Personal accountability says I'm going to be my best and I'm going to be accountable and responsible for all that I do and all that I fail to do. Hence, Dr. Donna comes into the situation. Now, what I've developed based upon my research of neuroscience and everything else that has to do with the brain is neuropability. And what neuropability is, it's creating neurogenesis, which is these new neurons for you to create new neural pathways to wire your brain to personal accountability. So you don't know how to be personally accountable, you're going to learn, get some new neurons, and create pathways to personal accountability. You have about 74 new pathways, because that's the 74 principles of real leadership. You may pick up some more along the way just because of skill development and the things that you have to do in order to execute the 74 principles of real leadership. So we spent 10 days going over briefly all of the 74 principles of real leadership. And now we're going to take them one day at a time to begin to create those new neurons, those new thought processes. So here's a great learning environment for you to start to say, hey, you should feel a little tingling and go, wow, this is cool. I like this. This makes me feel good. Yesterday, we talked about embrace change, and that's what neuroplasticity is. It's your ability to say, oh, I'm changing, I'm wiring. Okay, cool. And I can do this for the rest of my life so that you can sustain what you are learning. So walking through it briefly, you get some new neurons. You start letting them transmit. They take neural pathways, and now you have this neuroplasticity moment where now you're learning how to be personally accountable. Yesterday, you learned about embracing change. You're going to say what you did yesterday. Did you use the system? And what you did to embrace change. Today, we're talking about being coachable. When you put all of that together, you are now training your brain, using it in order for you to learn how to be personally accountable so that you can become your best. It's skill development. And when you keep, now this is going to feel like cognitive overload. It's like trying to drink out of a fire hose, and I get it. That's the beauty of the brain. Brain is like, this is too much. And then it takes it in, and then it gets in your working memory. And now you have this new skill, this new behavior, embrace change. And today, be coachable. And now it's becoming second nature for you. It's just something that you do day in and day out. These behaviors are skill sets and resources for you to use when you need them. Do you need the 74 principles of real leadership every day? Absolutely not. You'll find that you use some more frequently than others, but when you put them all together, that's how you live your life day in and day out, and that's how you become your best. That's what's actually taking place. So as we continue to grow forward and understand this process, I am making things a little bit more challenging for your brain, but your brain likes that. The brain wants to be challenged. It wants to grow. It's a muscle, and it wants to be strengthened. The frontal lobe enjoys this, even the cognitive overload. So if yesterday you felt like you were drinking out of a fire hose, you were. If you feel that way today, you will. Stick around. A month from now, it's not even going to bother you. In fact, you're going to want that and expect that from people who are giving you information, because you will have set and maintained high standards for your ability to learn, for your own neurogenesis, for your own neuroplasticity. You will want it. And when you don't get it, you go, oh, well, that's all you got? That ain't enough. I need some more. What is it? I got questions for you. And if you don't know, ask is also one of the principles of real leadership. So in summary, you are creating new neural pathways, and you're doing it to learn, wire your brain to learn how to hold yourself personally accountable based upon the 74 principles of real leadership. When you put that together, it's neuropability. So you're creating neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, adding it to personal accountability, and now you have neuropability. What questions do you have about what it is that we're doing? And let me know if that's simpler today than it was yesterday. And it will become simpler when we keep listening and understanding it. But your brain definitely is going, well, what is this? What is actually taking place? Because this is new, 100% new, and I understand it. Unless you've studied neuroscience, it's not something that you're going to be familiar with. Shadady, I don't know what you typed in. So if you can change your keyboard to English, that would be great, because that's the language that's my Muttersprache, my mother's tongue. That's the language that I'm going to, whatever this comment is that you have. If you're going to stick around, switch your keyboard. Okay. All right. So that's where we are. That's what we're doing. That's neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, and that's the purpose of it. And I am working on a shorter format to say neurogenesis, neurotransmitters, neuroplasticity, so that it becomes something that you can actually understand, sort of like flashcards or visuals for you. So personal accountability, again, is being accountable and responsible for all that you do and all that you fail to do, because that's what leads you to your best. We have over 6 billion adults in the world being unaccountable on the daily basis, and it's neurological. And because they have a fixed mindset and they're living in a comfort zone, they're not really trying to do this. However, they want shit to get fixed. So it's basically like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? You want something to be solved, but you don't want to be part of the solution. They need to fix it. Everybody has their fingers pointed out. They need to fix it. They need to fix it. They need to fix it. No, we as the adult population globally need to fix it. And it starts in the mind. And it starts with creating new neural pathways and new neurons, because right now, everybody's brain is wired to unaccountability. Everybody's brain is wired to comfort. Everybody's living in a hijacked amygdala state, and they want someone else to make the neural pathway back to the frontal lobe and do something about it, because they don't have to. But everybody is complicit in this process. So I am leading the charge, and I'm cool with that process. So neuropability is new neurons, personal accountability, put it together. Now you have neuroplasticity. You're wiring your brain to be personally accountable. With that being said, we can move on, because I don't see any other comments at this point. And so we're going to talk about Be Coachable. Be Coachable is one of the 74 principles of real leadership, And this became a principle of real leadership because when I was in high school and my senior year, I went back to the track team to run track, to letter in track. And I didn't want to be coachable. I was the neighborhood champ. I had beat everybody in my neighborhood. So I didn't need Miss Smiley or Coach Ford telling me how to run. I had it. And as a sprinter, I needed to come out of the blocks. And I didn't want to do that because for me, it was hard to be kneeling down. My legs and arms are long. I couldn't get my feet placement, hand placement right to push off, to come down and up into a running position. And so I decided I'm not starting using the starting blocks. And I was coming in last a lot. Finally, one day I come to track practice. Coach Smiley has said everybody will use the starting blocks no matter what. We had just finished cross country. We were practicing for indoor season, and I didn't like it. Finally, Mr. Ford stayed after and told me what I needed to do, but I had to be willing. Now, it was a mandate, so I really had no choice. And at that point, I became coachable. Sometimes you don't have a choice, and now you're listening because that's your only option. But if you are open to coaching from the beginning, it actually makes it better. It's something that is more advantageous or value added for you to make it better. That's what needs to take place. So, being coachable is something that you have to do. Be coachable. Okay. Next, when you're being coachable, these are the 3 steps that take place. So, number 1, you need to submit to the expert. If I was not willing to listen to Mr. Ford, there was not going to be a way that I was going to be able to learn from Mr. Ford. If I didn't submit and say, I'm ready to be coachable, that's the first thing that you have to do. Because if you don't, then it won't matter. For the first, while we were running across country and just practicing, no starting blocks for me, wasn't listening to nobody. So I was not submitting to the expert, which at that time was Coach Smiley and Mr. Ford. He was a retired track coach, so that's why we didn't call him. Plus, he was older, so we didn't call him Coach Ford. We called him Mr. Ford. He had to be, I don't know, 65 at that time. That was 1990, 1991. Then the next step is the willingness to listen. The willingness to listen. So not only did I have to submit, but I also had to listen to Coach Ford because I had to understand what it was that he was telling me to do, how to make sure that my knee and my arm and my hand placement and kneel forward on the set and then push off on the go. And I find it interesting that people still need to stand on people's starting blocks. I feel like they could have weighted them down or done something differently. Good morning, Lola. Weighted them down or done something differently in order for that to not be a thing. But my daughter has a sports advising company, and she said people still have to stand on on people's blocks. And I'm not that, I don't weigh that much. Back then I just got back out of basic training. I probably was like 130, 128, something like that. So plenty of people on the team were bigger than myself. But you have to have the willingness to listen. You got to be willing to listen. In fact, 2 of the principles of real leadership are to listen because you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. This came from when I used to go to church. So you should be listening twice as much as you're talking. So I had to be willing to listen. And then finally, the 3rd step to being coachable is to apply the information. If you do not apply the information, you are not going to be able to be coachable and it will not be effective. So step 1 to being coachable is submit to the expert. Step 2 is to have the willingness to listen. And step 3 is to apply the information. You have to be able to apply it. What questions do you have about the steps to be coachable? All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is go to the website and you're going to go to social media. So go to my website, theturnarounddoctor.com. And then go to the social media page. And you will click on Letters from Louise. And you will scroll down to Use, U-S-E. U-S-E, U-S-E. So Use, and you will read Use. And when you're finished reading Use, you will then type in your response, whatever it is that is taking place for you, thoughts, process, revelations, aha moments, whatever comes up for you. So use is the article. Go to theturnarounddoctor.com, social media tab, scroll down, third one from the bottom is letters from Louise. Click on that, and the poem that you will be reading today is Use. That's cool. Kevin, my thoughts: to be successful requires a complete and total body and life commitment. 2 exclamation points. Got it. One thing I wish I would have added on here that I may go back and add is shame. Because shame is a weapon. People will do stuff to you and then make you feel ashamed for it happening, so you won't say anything about it. Nola said, I agree. You need to use everything to be your best. It's all useful. I would concur with that sentiment. So this poem came as a result of me saying use it all, because unaccountable people will tell you to pick and choose. My sister used to tell me, don't say you're sorry. Don't apologize. Why would you say that? Don't say please to people in emails. Please let me know if you have questions. She told me don't put that at the end of emails. Please sounds like begging. And all of these. It's amazing what, people with inferiority complex and low self-esteem will do to decide if something is a weakness or not, which is the opposite when you're being a leader. But use it all. I am transparent with things that have taken place in my life because I still use it. These are examples of what to do and examples of what not to do. And what happens is the older you get, you either become totally transparent and can't keep your mouth shut, or you become so tight-lipped, it's like your mouth got a zipper on it and you talking like, your mouth was wired shut. You don't want to say nothing to nobody. You ain't know you did good. You saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. You ain't never smoked no reefer and did nothing else wrong in your life, and you just sitting there. Because if you open your mouth too much, the truth gonna fall out. So that's what happens the older you get. You either just really got a whole bunch of secrets buried, you're gonna die with the lies, or you like, and this happened on January 13th, 1972, and then in 1997, this is what, and you become this whole complete person. And now the old heads, or the G mamas and the grandmamas and the pawpaws and stuff, they will tell you everything. They will sit down. You have to sit in their house on their couch and watch 60 Minutes or something, but they're going to give you the real. But these new grandmas and these G daddies and all this other stuff and pop, sugar daddies and all that, you're not getting any information. They're not going to use their life experience to impart it upon you in order for you to become your best. So you need to start leading by example, which is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And you need to start telling your story, because I guarantee you, you are not the only one that has had that experience. I am not the only person in the world that was ever divorced and left because of a cheating spouse. I guarantee you, it's not just me. I guarantee you, I was not the only one at the courthouse getting divorced in 2004. That I wasn't the only person that year at the Orlando courthouse. I guarantee you that did not happen. I'm not the only person with one child. I'm not the only person that worked at Frito-Lay or any other thing that has happened. And when you use it as a strength, as a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block, you get to success, because you can be very resourceful. You can go back and say, when I had to have my bone marrow aspiration, I went back to when my hands were messed up and my mother stole my pain medication. I used to have to change my own wound. I'm like, you didn't have to deal with pain before, and now I have no pain med. So this is, you already just go back to your mental space of that, and you can get to and through this as well. So you use all of it, every last bit of it, because it happened for a reason. I use the gaming system, and I don't know how to play Fortnite, PUBG, whatever it is, but I do know we've been at people's houses and they're like, get the thing, give me this, give me that, so that you can have it ready when you need it for a future event. And that's what this is for. Scars simply show what you've been through, what you were able to survive because you're still here. And the good and the bad and the happy and the sad and all points in between make you who you are. And if you allow unaccountable people to strip away that part of you, then that weakens the experience and it weakens you. So use all of it, every last bit of it. For people that live on farms, about pigs and hogs, from the rooter to the tutor, you use all of it. And that's how you have to see your life, is use every last bit of it, because none of it was an accident. Someone on what was it, Threads the other day asked, what would you go back and tell your younger self? What's some words of wisdom? And I really don't have anything to go back and tell. The one thing I would say is take better care of your teeth. Other than that, there's nothing else that I would go back and say, don't go left instead of right. Don't go do, because it all led me to today. So I wouldn't go back and change absolutely anything, because if I changed that, would I still be Dr. Donna today? I have no idea. So there wouldn't be something that I would go back. I would go back because I have a video that says, if 15-year-old you came knocking on your door at current day you, what would they think about current day you? Because that's a better question. So not go back and change, but what if old you came and said, doo-doo, you saw old you 1990, 87 or 88, somewhere around there, ringing your doorbell, like, oh shit, that's Didi from Medina. What's she doing all the way in Las Vegas? That's a different reflection. Would she be like, I see you? Or she'd be like, ooh, what happened to us? What did you do to us? What is this? What's going on? How did it go so left? That's a better question. Because did you do what you said? Would they be proud? With 15-year-olds, you'd be like, See, okay, all right. That's why I'm catching the bus. Okay, cool. All right. I'm even living in a warm climate. What's the temperature here? What? No snow. Oh, I'm here. Okay, I'll go back. I got it. I see the future. This is good. Or would they definitely go, okay, well, what did you do so I can make some adjustments and fix this? This right here is shit show palooza. Or you could be somewhere lukewarm in the middle, like, not good, not bad. But you have to use it all, every last bit of it. So now I'm going to follow up with you and ask you yesterday, what did you do to embrace change? Yesterday's principle of real leadership. I was about to say personal accountability. Yesterday's principle of real leadership was to embrace change. So what did you do to embrace change? And the steps to that are pause, assess, address, and accept. Pause, address, assess, address, and accept. What did you do to embrace change yesterday? And while you're typing, I will say what I did. So the lesson that I learned yesterday is that neuroscientists, neurologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, whatever you want to call them, are not leaders. They are employees, they might be experts, but they are not leaders. And they're definitely not real leaders. And here's why I say this, because I combed Instagram and TikTok for research. As I was talking to Nola, and she was saying that this is, all I heard was neural. I was like, okay, let me go back and do some more research from some actual people speaking. And what I found is that people are really good at telling you how the brain functions. And I've said this before, picking a very niched out thing. We're going to talk about the brain and its impact on ADHD. We're going to talk about the brain and its impact on Alzheimer's. We're going to talk about the brain and its impact on being neurodivergent. So to get real laser focused. And through my searching multiple times throughout yesterday, I could not find the information that I needed. So once again, I became frustrated. And I'm saying all of these neuroscientists out here, all of this same information. You can go to my Pinterest page and look at my BrainWorks board, and some of the information is very repetitive over and over again. And so it's like looking for a needle in a needle stack. And people haven't found out, discovered, or researched how to use the brain to create the best human beings. It's not there. It's not there. And so I had to embrace change. So I had to pause after I finished cussing and being mad as hell and saying, fuck them. I had to assess why this is not happening, address it, and then accept that I have to do this from scratch again. So the change that I'm making is this doesn't exist. And this is how I got to making my own content, because I was using OPCs and it wasn't working for me. So now I have to embrace the fact that this is going to be extremely efforted on my part. And I said this to my child, every time I think I'm making progress, here comes another layer of the onion that has to be peeled back. And I'm going, oh, got it. So now not only is it neurological, but now it's neurogenesis, it's neuroplasticity, and it hasn't been taught. So now I have to teach it. And now I have to discover on my own how to teach it, because the resources that are available aren't the resources that I need. And I've used this example before. If you need to build something, you can order the tools online. You could go to Lowe's and Home Depot and Harbor Freight and Tractor place. I forgot. Nola will tell me. You can order things online. But if you have to make the pine, if you have to make the DeWalt drill, if you have to make the drill bit, it's going to take longer, because now you have to make the tools in order to use the tools to make the thing that you need to make. And that's where I'm at. But I have to embrace that this is part of the process. So the change is, I'm an educator. My doctorate is in organizational leadership. And now it's in neuropability. That's the change that I have to embrace. So that's where I am. Excuse me. So Nola, yours is, I did research on flag football. It's something I'm familiar with, but I did a deep dive to understand the entire system. It's embrace change because I had to understand the difference to support it. Yes, ma'am. And then Kevin, when you get an opportunity, and I know Lola is working. So that's the change that I had to embrace. And one thing about change is you definitely, the more you change, the more you become a real leader, the more you advance your mind, the bigger the embrace has to be for the change, because higher power, God in the universe, will make sure that it's still a challenge for you and that it requires faith to get to and through this change that you're doing. Kevin, I have accepted the fact that the quality of food at my favorite restaurant will never be the same since the previous owner had retired from cooking. And so are you going to continue to go to that restaurant, or are you going to look at a different restaurant? Because that happened for us. El Pollo Loco changed their chicken, and Nola got food poisoning twice from it. So we had to find another restaurant to go to, because we only have like 4 when we're on the go that we can go to. And you get tired of eating the same 3 meals. I think we're back at 3, because we have Cane's, Shake Shack, El Pollo Loco. Rubio's, and Whole Foods. And then the Jamaican place, but that's kind of far. you got to change locations, and that's difficult. And we've had to do that with Del Taco as well. And that they one of our managers at one, she went to another location, and then we don't know what happened to Ashley. But when Sylvia left, the service went down. When Ashley left, the service went down, and so we're like, can't go there anymore. So that's unfortunate. That, and to think about that, as I said with my coffee, when I did find a second alternative in Henderson, so there's a second person, not as good as Arlie, but very close to being able to make my decaf caramel breve extra hot. Um, yeah, that's it. So yes, they can. She can do it as well. So that's what personal accountability is. You shouldn't have to change locations or stop going to that restaurant. There shouldn't be. And what we noticed is my Nola's barber said the same thing, that the chicken. And we found a third person that said, and they went to 3 different locations. So this was at 3 different locations that people had a negative food experience from them. So that means it's coming from corporate. And that means that there has been a change in leadership at the corporate level for El Pollo Loco. So because people are now holding themselves personally accountable, that means that you can't have the same experience, even though the physical location is still there. And what that says is that the person was there, was being the best, and then they retired, and then there's no succession planning. So that's the problem. You just want to be able to go to your favorite restaurant. We just want to be able to go get a healthy meal that's not going to give me heartburn because I'm going through I'm perimenopausal, and that's not going to make Nola sick, so we can continue to eat and go help other people build things that they need. That's what I'm talking about with personal accountability, is that it's in your daily. It's not a matter of it's something that a person in a position of power or authority has done. It's a local restaurant, and now the food is not good. That impacts your day. That impacts our travel. Now we got to pack snacks. Now we got to go and make sure I got to do meal prep and all these other things because someone at a corporate level decided to go and get cheap, bad chicken. And for you, now you have to find a different location. That's what personal accountability is, day in and day out. It's impacting your daily because people in your community are not thinking of what is the best way from a cost perspective. And I talk about Arizona tea frequently as well, is that Arizona tea has managed to keep their price point low. It's been 99 cents and $2.39. You get that big gallon for like $2 and something. I don't drink it because I don't like iced tea, but when I used to drink it, it was the same price. And it has been, and the company has made adjustments in their supply chain and cost to keep the cost low for the consumer. And if they can do it, everybody else can do it. At Frito-Lay, we used to go up on the price one year, down on the ounce of the bag. So back in the day, those bags used to be huge, and they're just getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but the price is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And they will argue because of the price of oil, because of the price of potatoes, because of the price of the tractor trailer going down the road. When I was working with them, it was 31 cents a mile that the driver got paid for all those runs and everything. I'm sure it's more than that. Fuel revenue index tax, cost of fuel, all of that. Vehicles are going up. You got to switch to electric and everything. And then the cost just keeps getting passed down to the consumer. But when you focus on personal accountability and becoming your best, you can actually find ways to mitigate costs. You can keep costs low and streamline other parts of the systems without it affecting payroll, workman's comp, benefits, all that. I know all about all that, so I'm not going to have a conversation with anybody. You don't understand. Yes, I do. I had a $20 million annual budget as a super zom. So I know about all of that. Thus, why are you here? Why are you here? And what is the purpose of your question? What prompted that question? So let me get this straight. You're scrolling through on YouTube looking at lives. I am in a lecture style format teaching, and you decided the best course of action would be to randomly ask me a hypothetical question to disrupt what is actually taking place here without raising your hand to say, may I ask a question? Do you mind if I ask the question? Are you taking questions? So you didn't ask if you could ask the question. You just randomly scrolled down a dozen times and asked this hypothetical question and then made the false assumption that this would make me uncomfortable. Is this something that you do often? Do you just scroll through lives and ask this question? Or do you have a list of hypothetical questions that you ask people in the middle of them teaching? Is this thing on? Are you no longer here? So that person is gone. My point is this. When people are holding themselves personally accountable to become their best, you don't have to make adjustments for their unaccountability. And I had this conversation with Nola yesterday on our way to our first appointment. And I said, I'm tired of making adjustments for other people's unaccountability. Nobody is making adjustments for me being personally accountable. Why am I making adjustments for them being personally unaccountable? That's why the number one principle of real leadership is to hold yourself and others personally accountable. When I have a negative experience at a store, I talk to managers. I've gone all the way to region vice presidents and regional directors to get a point across, to convey a point, because people need to be held personally accountable. So Dust has come to my live and decided to interrupt what I'm saying for some random hypothetical question because they woke up this morning bored and now they're looking for a host. Once again, an unaccountable person. And I did not read the final message because that threw them off. Well, if it makes you uncomfortable, it doesn't make me uncomfortable. It actually doesn't. It's actually an example. Yet again, an unaccountable person being bored, needing to go leech on to something that is actually positive, because one thing's for certain, an unaccountable person only knows how to lose because they are looking for that adrenaline and that dopamine boost because they have a hijacked amygdala that runs the course of their lives. So that's what's actually taking place. So that's why I'm here every single day teaching you how to use your brain. And now, while yesterday may have been a little bit frustrating for me, it's not going to stop me, because what else will I do? Now that I have this information, I'm going to stop knowing it's neurological, or am I going to keep saying it's neurological? Am I going to check people's neurological thought process? That's why I said, so let me get this straight. This is what you're choosing to do, because we don't do that. We don't tell unaccountable people, you chose to do this. You chose to be unaccountable, and that's why this happened. If you choose to be unaccountable, something is going to be an unaccountable result that shows back up. And then you want to do credit and blame. No. When you are holding yourself personally accountable for all that you do and all that you fail to do, you have a different action. You use the 74 principles of real leadership. Now, if Dusk was actually here to learn, then Dusk would have did the raise the hand. Can I ask a question? If you don't know, ask, because that's one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And then Dusk would have been objective and asked a question about what I was actually talking about instead of some random topic that had nothing to do with what I was talking about. But this is something that does goes through, asks some random question, throw people off, and now they feel good. Well, I'm working on a robot that's and then has all this conspiracy theory bullshit to talk about that has nothing to do with them, so that they don't have to focus on them. Unaccountable people are really good at smoke screens and mirrors. That's why that person no longer has access to learning how to hold themselves personally accountable. Now, what will take place in the future is people, when this scales, will then try to jump on the personal accountability bandwagon and will be blocked from way back in 2023, 2024, and 2025 and try to understand why they don't have access. And I will say, you did something way back then that is precluding you from not being able, or excluding you from not being able to have an opportunity to do this. So the answer is no, and it will continue to be no, because you missed your moment 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. That's how that works. So again, if you have unaccountable people in your life stopping your flow and your progress for nothing, to no avail, it was a dumb question. To have that conversation for what? We are talking about being coachable. We are talking about embracing change and what we had to do to implement the principles of real leadership. And here comes random, I need a dopamine and adrenaline boost and an endorphin boost. So let me come over here and get that. Let me dump and try to shit on and make something toxic that's not toxic, so then I can go feel better about my day. And that dog don't hunt no day of the week. With that being said, today's real leader principle is to be coachable. And so the definition of be is to exist or to take place. To exist or to take place. And then coachable is capable of being easily taught and trained to do something better. So be is to exist or to take place. And coachable is capable of being easily taught and trained to do something better. I go back to Mr. Ford telling me, Donna, come over here. You have to learn how to do this. Okay, yes, sir. Got it. Easily taught and trained. That means you have to be willing. In order to be coached, you need to be coachable. Submitting to the expert. So the steps to being coachable again are submitting to the expert, the willingness to listen and apply the information. So you have to let it exist, and then you have to be easily trained so that you can do something better. In order to become your best, you have to be coachable. You need to listen to what I'm saying. You need to create new neurons in your brain so that you will have neurogenesis, get the neuroplasticity so that you can wire your brain to the 74 principles of real leadership, all leading to you becoming your best. So what questions do you have about be coachable, the definition of be, the definition of coachable, or how you get it done? Because today you're going to go seek out an opportunity for you to be coachable. You're going to go to somebody and say, teach me how to do this. Teach me how to Dougie. No. So an example I have is when I first started on Snapchat, I had to go to Daphne at Toastmasters. Hey, how do you use Snapchat? I don't have a clue. But you need to go find an expert and ask them how to do something. And you're going to submit to the expert, you're going to listen, and then you're going to apply what it is that that expert is telling you to do. That's you learning how to be coachable. You can go to somebody older, a peer, somebody younger, somebody more technologically, what's wrong with me this morning? Savvy, cooking, anything, something that you don't know how to do, or you've not been coachable in a particular area in your life, and now you're going to go be coachable in that area of your life. It's time. It's definitely time, because you can get information from an expert. Don't go to a expert, because that shit ain't gonna work. But go to a genuine expert, and literally, if you have to go on somebody's live because you just don't have anybody around you, then there are always somebody live on one of these platforms. Go and ask a question and get the answer that you need from somebody. If you need to get on the phone, you need to video chat with somebody, but that needs to happen, and be ready to say what took place and why you selected that particular area in order to be coached in. That's what you need to be able to do. What questions do you have about anything that I've reviewed before we talk about what you've learned today? No questions. I have a question. Do you have a better understanding of the connection of the brain and personal accountability? So are you beginning to understand neuropability today as opposed to yesterday? And if it's unclear, tell me what part of it is unclear, if you can assess what's unclear. Yes, it is clear. Got it. And then you could go ahead if it's clear. It started out rocky, but I knew you would smooth out the connections. So I solicited feedback, which is one of the 74 principles of real leadership with NOLA and yesterday. I would also like to add that the reason why it is rocky is because it doesn't exist. And I don't know if you've ever created something from scratch, literally from scratch, not a recipe that you're doing, but literally something that isn't here, and then you bring it here. It's a challenging process. Neurologically, it is to take these pieces of things. And I'm in a lab with a pen and a pad. That's what I say. It's difficult, and the reason why it's so much more challenging is because people don't wake up with best as the objective, and that's what my note is about. Is that the neuroscientists are not leaders. They're researchers, they are managers, they are experts, they are psychologists and psychiatrists and the people who study the brain and human behavior, but they're not leading a charge. And so what they do is they use pre-existing research and they either expand upon that research or they debunk the research and say that's not valid anymore because here's what our research says. But you can only imagine. So, and it's the brain. And every page that you go to, I mean, I'm going to the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, and all these places. And one of the neuroscientists on TikTok said Harvard has a MOOC, MOOC. So I will check that out between today and tomorrow because we have a Donza tomorrow, even though I have 3 lives. So it is, when I say it's like finding a needle in a needle stack, I'm talking about a needle the size of one of the Grand Mountains, Mount Rainier. I won't do the big ones, but Mount Rainier in Seattle. So it's that big of a stack. And now I'm trying to find a needle in basically a mountain of needles is what it is. So people are studying the problems of the brain. Remember, research is funded by the government and corporations and universities. And so you have to study what they want to know. And most of it is biology. Most of it is pharmaceutical. So what drug can we get to the market for Alzheimer's and ADHD and all these other things? The study is not best. The study is not best. How do we create the best human being? Day to day, day in and day out. So Kevin can go to whatever restaurant he wants and it's the best service. I can be on live and not have some imbecile come and say some dumb shit because they're bored today. How can that happen? And the reason why is because human beings have free will and they do whatever the fuck they want, all willy-nilly. So it's this whole herding cattle kind of, let's just get everybody to these biases and conform. And we don't have what we need. We don't have the cures for the things that we need. We don't know how to keep a supply chain and costs down low because everybody's stupid. I said it and I'll say it again. Because people are not at their best. People don't know how to use their brain. So you all didn't have a frame of reference yesterday when I said neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. If I had said multiplication, you have a reference for that because we're all adults and you went to elementary school. If I said division, if I said money, if I said breathing, if I said let's dissect a frog, but as soon as I said neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, neurons, neurotransmitters, neural pathways, and then I said neuropability, that's why, Kevin, you said, well, how do you spell it? Nothing. But if I say to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is noble in mind to suffer the slings and arrows of misfortune, to die, to speak no more. You know what I'm talking about. That's not going to help you with your restaurant that's the good person retired. So this whole concept of we can help people at this low level. That's why the brain is studied when it's beginning and when that motherfucker's falling apart. But the middle, unless you are stressed, unless it's something negative. So negativity bias has you searching for the things that's wrong with the brain, but it doesn't have you searching for the things that's right with the brain and how to use the brain. And that's why yesterday it sounded like I was saying, and I rehearsed it and I went over it and I said, I'm trying to simplify it for you, but you have no frame of reference to what the hell I'm talking about. It's like when Steve Jobs talked about the touchscreen and people were saying, man, we can't do that. He said they'll get used to it. And now when you see a screen, you start touching it. Even when it ain't a touchscreen. Like, what's wrong with this screen? What's going on here? What's that? Y'all touchscreen, bro? No, man, that ain't touchscreen. Oh, okay. Got it. So there is no foundation for it. So literally we are building it as I'm discovering it. And that part is frustrating because I feel like a novice. I am, and I really shouldn't be because of how many years people have been studying the brain, but they haven't been studying how to use it to create the best human beings day-to-day life. And the reason why, because I was pissed, is because they're managers, because they're employees, because they're experts, but they're not leading the charge. They're taking these theories and this little bit of research in lab rats in 1972, and we found that monkeys can do this, and then we found out that chimpanzees can do this and that. And that's all you have. That's all you have. And people are okay with it. People are okay with not knowing how to use their brain. Why? Because it's a challenge. That cognitive overload, learning something new, that atrophied ass working memory because it's comfortable not knowing. I'm not comfortable not knowing how I'm going to get this information to you, but I will figure it out because I'm me, because I'm a bad mofo. So I'm going to get this just like I've gotten other things that weren't here before, because this is the problem with the adult population. The inability to use this gray matter effectively to get the best outcome. The inability to create neural pathways to get the fuck out the amygdala and take your ass to the frontal lobe and start using it for what it was designed to do. I'm cool with taking as much time as it takes in order for this to be a reality. Because Kevin, wouldn't you like to be able to go to another restaurant and stay that way no matter who quit, no matter who left, no matter who died, no matter who retired, and no matter who sold it? Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that be amazing to go in to self-checkout and the fucking machine works? And you don't need a cashier to stand over there with the light on it because it just works. Everywhere you go, it works because it's the best experience day in and day out. You elect politicians and they do their job. You hire an employee and they do their job. You go to a job and they do what they said they were going to do because it's neurological. Because everybody is waking up using the 74 principles of real leadership to become their best. Because we don't have a universal, smiling is universal. We don't have a universal way to navigate through our day-to-day lives because we're too busy looking at how peanut butter affects the brain in lab rats. Who the fuck cares? Everybody know people got peanut allergies, but we're focused. We have the people who should be doing this work focused on very small parts. Well, what happens in the cerebral cortex when who the fuck cares if you can't use your brain? You have all these cadavers being donated to science and we're studying dumb shit. Well, what made them die? We're living. How can we do this and use our brain to become our best? Is it a challenge for me? Absolutely. Will this take even more time? Yes. Was I pissed as hell yesterday thinking, I'm here, I got it. No, the fuck I don't. Okay, cool, got it. I got to embrace change. I got to accept it. Here's where we are. This is what we're doing. So I understand that you didn't understand, and now I have to find a way as an educator for you to understand what I'm saying so you can start doing what I'm doing. But now I got to go back, scour the internet again, and say what is actually happening. Because the only information that I have is if you want to increase your memory, read and exercise and take fish oil and and take some other stuff. That's on my other notebook. Take some fish oil, take some lion's mane, and one more other thing. Take some hesbedesterin. And that's what's going to get you to increase your memory. Nobody's talking about the working memory. Nobody's saying how to create. They keep saying neurogenesis is here. How do you create those new neurons, those new neural pathways? Haven't found it. I'm not saying that it's not there. It's just a needle in a mountain stack. That's what's happening. So what did you learn today? I am learning that those people are not leaders. They're doing their job and they want to appear, nobody wants to appear dumb. Nobody wants to say, we don't fucking know, because that would be bad, because the superiority complex that most of these experts have, not going to do it. So I don't know, but I'm finding out day in, day out. I do know that what I'm saying is working better than what the hell they're saying, because people are experiencing best and your neural pathways are being created and you are having a better brain experience and you are staying in your frontal lobe and your amygdala is getting hijacked less and less and less and less and less. So that's where we are. Beginner's brain. That's the process. So I learned today that people are not leaders. Because leaders empower, leaders are forward thinking, leaders bring out the best in people, and they forge new paths that actually benefit the greater good. But it's low hanging fruit. Go after children and old people. And mentally ill people and homeless people always makes you look good and feel good, because that's that low hanging fruit. But why you can't make champions? And not in athletics, in media and entertainment, but in just day-to-day life. Real people with real brains doing real shit. Yes, submitting to the expert is an important first step, and it's difficult to do, especially if you already consider yourself well-knowledged and well-versed. The last thing, I was older than Daphne. I'm older than Nola. But when I don't know something at an appointment, I can't do something technology-wise, I have to go to her, because she does everything in Google. I can't fucking stand Google. It's an awful, horrible interface. It's ugly, it's unsightly, and it's unintuitive. So I have to go to her, because part of my patience is this code is whack. And like, she took 16 pictures of her yesterday, and they needed to be put, I needed them in my Google Drive, and I gave my phone to her. I'm like, I'm not uploading 16 pictures to Google Drive, because I would throw this phone in the trash behind having to do what you got to do. Too many multi-steps, you got to be on Wi-Fi, and I'm like, come on, y'all could be doing better than this. You should be able to use your data to upload something to Google Drive at this point. So again, today you're being coachable, you're submitting to the expert, you're listening, and you're implementing what they're saying, because being coachable, and the reason why you be coachable is that, and this is Kevin, this may or may not have been your experience, because you had a better relationship with your family, is people say you're supposed to respect your elders. And I get that. But treat people with dignity and respect is a two-way street, because our parents and our grandparents did not respect us. They demanded that we respect them, and then they were extremely disrespectful to us. That's not leadership. I know you're not going to be coming to my house disrespecting me. Take your ass out. Get the fuck out and come back in. That's not mutual respect. That's not. So we were bullied into respecting them because they demanded it, but they didn't give it. And then the exes switched it, raising these millennials, and now they're like, well, in my day, we couldn't get away with that. Why not? Because your parents said, respect me. And then it was too much. So then we went to the opposite direction. And now you don't want to go and ask someone younger than you, or you're like, I don't know, because they might be disrespectful or something. And everybody just needs, when you can be coachable, coachable doesn't have an age limit on it. That person has more information, and I need that information for them, so I'm going to go get it. But this whole notion of respect your elders, no, treat people with dignity and respect, period. Until they become disrespectful, then you got error and opportunity. But as a whole, you treat people with dignity and respect, and it's a two-way street. And I didn't find growing up that it was a two-way street. It was a one-way street, and that was it. So that's not respect. It's not mutual. And that's part of the reason why you can't submit to the expert, because that would mean I must be inferior, and now I don't know something, so you're going to treat me bad, and you're going to use it against me. So that's what was going on for me. That's why I had such a hard time actually starting to ask experts for their information. And then they could belittle you as well. So again, all coming from trauma from unaccountable people. Everything that we have this from is from unaccountable people hijacking our amygdala and using it against us. Nola, do you have an answer before we go? What did you learn today? No, I didn't. I looked. It's not scrolling up. And I have sprung forward. Again, I've mentioned this before. I will be tired for the next 10 to 12 days because I do not do well when my sleep is being impacted. That's why traveling overseas, it always takes me a day or two to get used to being in a different country. And when I come back, another day or two to start to get back on the sleep time because my biorhythms are off. And one of the neurologists literally said this springing forward, it impacts babies and pets and everything else. It's dumb as hell, and we need to stop doing it. Okay. I don't see the answer from Nola, so we're going to go ahead and close out today. I will be back tomorrow with more information neurologically about neuropability as I continue to scour the earth to understand what is the best way to give you this information so that you understand your brain. You can use it as the resource that it is to apply and learn and apply the 74 principles of real leadership. So you can use the number one principle of real leadership is, guess what? Where I don't see you or what you learned today. So that you can apply it in your day-to-day life so that you and your community can become your best. And everything that you do, you can have your best experience without needing to go on vacation, without needing to move, without needing to move people out. It can just be a best experience, day in and day out. Are you typing? Okay, let's see if she's typing. Also, Kevin, follow up on the information that I sent you on video editing. Did you use it? Was it helpful? You can send me an email. Neurogenesis is creating a neural pathway. Neuroplasticity is the fact that you can learn new things. That would be correct. Yes. Okay. You all go off and have a great, amazing rest of your day. Remember to be coachable. Be prepared to talk about that por la mañana. No, you're good. We're good to go now. I think I understand your question. I will be back tomorrow, same time, same place. A little lethargic because it is springing forward. By next Wednesday, the momentum should be back. It's usually 10 to 12 days before I get it for real, for real. Even with naps and everything, it is what it is. And it doesn't matter if I'm springing forward or falling back. The impact is still the same to my amazing brain. You all go off. Remember, be coachable. I will be back, God willing, higher power in the universe. Same time, same place. Different t-shirt. Have a sensational Sunday. Adios.